My sister dropped her baby on my doorstep and vanished into the night. My parents said, "She's your burden now," and hung up. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just held that tiny girl close and whispered, "You're safe now." 10 years later, they tried to rip her away from me in court with lies and fake tears, but they had no idea what I had in my folder and what I'd do to protect her. My name is Rachel Whitaker. I'm 34 now, but this all started when I was 24. I was a pediatric nurse at Memorial Hospital in Seattle. I had just been promoted. I had a boyfriend, a career track, and a 5-year plan. That plan didn't survive a Tuesday night in October. I'd just come home from a double shift. My scrubs smelled like formula and anxiety. I was exhausted. All I wanted was Chinese takeout and 1 glass of wine before collapsing on the couch. Then the doorbell rang. It was 9:30 p.m. I almost ignored it. Then it rang again harder, faster. Not a neighbor, not a delivery. I opened the door, and there she was. A baby, in a car seat, on my doormat, a pink blanket pulled tight against the rain. No one in sight, just the hum of streetlights and a sleeping infant with my sister's face. My hand shook as I reached for the note tucked into the car seat. "Her name is Lily. I can't do this. Take care of her. I'm sorry." 7 words, no instructions, no phone call, no explanation, just a 3-month-old baby in the rain. I called Amanda immediately, straight to voicemail. I texted. I waited. Nothing. Then I called my parents. My mother's voice was cold. We told her not to have that baby. "What am I supposed to do?" I asked. She left Lily with me. She made her choices. My father cut in. "She's your burden now. She's your granddaughter." "We never asked to be grandparents." My mom snapped. "Not to that baby, tsatsai, not like this." They hung up. I was alone. I called Mark, my boyfriend. I asked if he could grab formula and diapers on his way over. He didn't ask how Lily was. He didn't offer to help. Instead, he said, "This is not our problem. You need to call social services." "She's my niece," I said, quietly. "I'm not calling CPS in the middle of the night." "Rachel, be serious. This is your sister's drama again. It's not our job to clean it up." It wasn't just what he said. It was how quickly he said it. That's when I realized I didn't have a partner. I had a man who wanted a perfect future, not a messy present. I hung up. I grabbed Lily's carrier, pulled my coat over her, and drove to a 24-hour supermarket. I wandered the baby aisle in hospital scrubs, half crying, half Googling what kind of formula to buy for a 3-month-old. I had no clue what I was doing. A night shift employee, an older woman, saw me. She walked over and gently said, "Let's get you started." She helped me find everything: bottles, wipes, diapers, formula. She even showed me how to read the label. Her kindness nearly broke me. Back home, I laid Lily in a drawer lined with folded towels. It was all I had. I barely slept. Every time she whimpered, I jolted awake. I checked her breathing. I Googled everything. I held her, bottle-fed her with shaking hands, and whispered, "I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm here." The next morning, I called out from work and filed a police report. The officer said, "There's no crime here. She left the baby with family." I also contacted a family attorney. She told me I'd need to file for temporary guardianship. It would take time, paperwork, home inspections, court appearances, and it would cost money I didn't have. Meanwhile, I had to keep Lily alive. I stretched my budget, moved to a 2-bedroom, and cut my hours at the hospital. Everything changed. Amanda didn't come back. Mark didn't either. A week later, I packed up his things and left them by the door. He texted once. I didn't reply. I was 24, newly single, newly broke, newly a mother. That wasn't the plan. But as I watched Lily sleep in that drawer-turned crib, her tiny fists curled against her cheeks. I didn't feel panic anymore. I felt something fierce, something final. I was hers now, and I would protect her no matter what. Those first weeks with Lily were a blur of trial and error. I learned to warm bottles without overheating them, how to swaddle with one hand, and how to function on 2 hours of sleep. My apartment slowly transformed. My couch disappeared under piles of laundry and burp cloths. The wine glasses went untouched in the cupboard. A stack of parenting books from the library gathered dust I didn't have time to read. What I had was instinct, and an aching kind of love I didn't know I was capable of. 2 weeks in, I moved us into a new place, a 2-bedroom rental near the hospital. It wasn't fancy thin walls, old carpets, but it had room. I bought a second-hand crib, a used stroller, and a nightlight shaped like a moon that Lily loved. She'd stare at it during late-night feedings while I hummed lullabies I barely remembered. I took emergency family leave from the hospital. My supervisor, Dr. Patel, didn't ask questions. She knew I was solid. She said, "Take care of what matters. We'll be here." On my 3rd day home, a woman knocked on the door, short, gray-haired, sharp eyes, my new neighbor. "Mrs. Ramirez." She peeked past me and saw Lily, then handed me a bag of soup. "You look like you need sleep," she said. "Give me the baby. Eat something." And I did. She stayed for an hour that day, just enough to show me how to burp Lily properly and where the nearest pharmacy was. She didn't ask about Amanda. She didn't judge. She just showed up with quiet wisdom and enough patience to hold the pieces of me together. I filed for temporary guardianship 2 weeks after Amanda vanished. It took everything I had: time, money, patience I didn't know I had. They fingerprinted me, interviewed me, inspected my apartment. Meanwhile, I was changing diapers on 2 hours of sleep and navigating Lily's first cold. It wasn't glamorous. No Instagram moments, just survival. But then, she smiled. I was holding her after a bottle, and she looked straight into my eyes and smiled like she knew me, like I mattered. I broke down sobbing. I hadn't cried since Amanda left, but in that moment, I let it all out. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because I realized I wasn't scared anymore. This little girl wasn't just Amanda's baby. She was mine now. A month in, the hospital let me return on a reduced schedule. I switched to day shifts and cut back to 30 hours a week. I found a woman named Darlene Hayes, who ran a home daycare around the corner. She reminded me of a middle school librarian, strict but kind. Lily adjusted fast. Darlene said she was observant, unusually calm for her age. "She watches everything," she told me one day, like she's taking mental notes. I believed her. At night, Lily would curl up in my lap and hold on to one finger while drifting off. I'd look at her and wonder what Amanda was doing. Was she alive? Did she care? Did she think she could come back and undo what she'd done? I wrote letters I never sent. They were for Amanda, pages and pages about Lily's first laugh, her first time rolling over, the night she wouldn't stop crying unless I sang the same terrible lullaby 3 times in a row. I kept the letters in a box under my bed, along with Amanda's note, the one she left in the car seat. Sometimes I hated her for what she'd done. Other nights, I felt sorry for her. But every time I looked at Lily, I felt clarity. She was innocent. She didn't choose any of this. And I chose her. My parents didn't visit often, maybe 4 times that first year. They came in like inspectors. My mother would point out clutter or how tired I looked. My father stayed by the door, arms folded, like he was watching a slow-motion train wreck. "Any word from Amanda?" he asked once. It was the only time he showed emotion. If I'd heard anything, you'd know. I lied. They never offered to help, never brought diapers or food. But they did bring judgment, neatly folded in their coats. Mark tried texting twice. I deleted both without reading. I started to build a new life, just me and Lily. My coworkers surprised me with a baby shower. They brought secondhand clothes, books, even a hand-knit blanket from one of the janitors. That blanket stayed in Lily's crib until she was almost 4. Mrs. Ramirez became like family. She taught me how to calm Lily during colic fits, how to make budget-stretching meals, how to stop apologizing for things I didn't cause. She said once, "You're not raising her alone. You just haven't realized your village yet." And she was right. At 3 months in, I scraped together enough to hire a private investigator. I needed closure. He found a paper trail Amanda had been in San Diego, worked at a diner, checked into a rehab center, then disappeared again. Alive, but gone. It both broke my heart and gave me peace. That summer, Lily sat up for the first time. I clapped like a lunatic. We celebrated with frozen grapes and a FaceTime call to Mrs. Ramirez. Lily's first birthday wasn't big. No bounce houses or caterers, just a homemade cake, 3 friends, and a living room full of mismatched balloons. My parents didn't come. Lily didn't care. She smeared frosting all over her face and laughed until she hiccuped. That night, I tucked her into a real crib in her own room. The moon nightlight glowed gently on the wall. I sat by her bed for a long time, watching her breathe. She had no idea what had happened that night a year ago, but I did. And I knew, without hesitation, that I would do it all over again. 5 years passed faster than I could process. Lily started kindergarten at Rainier Valley Elementary. She had a purple backpack, a love for dinosaurs, and a stubborn streak that rivaled my own. Mornings became a practiced rhythm. Pancakes with blueberry smiles, star-patterned shoes, a goodbye hug that lasted longer than it needed to. She called me Nana. It stuck. She'd say it loud in the grocery store, whisper it when she was scared, and write it on every art project. I wasn't just her aunt anymore. I was her world. And she was mine. By then, I had taken a job as a school nurse. Different school, better hours. It wasn't as prestigious as my old hospital role, but it meant I could be home when Lily needed me. It meant I could chaperone field trips, attend PTA meetings, and tuck her in every night without checking patient charts after. Our life was small, simple, but full. Friday nights were for movie marathons on the couch. Sunday mornings were for the park, her favorite climbing tree, my favorite coffee. We'd stop by the farmer's market afterward and argue about which jam to get. She was growing into someone spectacular. Curious, gentle, fierce. And yet, even as the years settled into comfort, I knew the question would come. "Nana, who's my mom?" She was 7 when she asked it. We were folding laundry. She was pairing socks and humming. The question came out of nowhere, but not really. I'd seen it building behind her eyes for months. I sat down, took a breath. "Your mom, Vanessa, was my sister. She loved you. But she got really sick when you were born. Not sick like a cold. Sick in a way that made it hard to take care of you. She left you with me so you'd be safe." Lily didn't cry. She nodded, like she was filing it away. "Where is she now?" "I don't know." I said honestly. "She disappeared for a long time, but she made sure you came to me." She thought about that, then said, "Okay," and went back to folding socks. I didn't push it. I let her lead. That's how we handled everything. Later that week, I made a photo book with her. I filled it with pictures of us her first birthday, Halloween costumes, trips to the aquarium. I added little notes under each one. "This is when you made a cake with Mrs. Ramirez. This is your first art show. This is your first day of pre-K, when your shoes didn't match." She flipped through it like it was treasure. "This is my family," she said proudly. "Not big, but strong." I thought we were safe. But safety is never permanent, especially not when someone else holds a piece of the past. One evening, Lily was working on a solar system project at the kitchen table. I was stirring pasta. My phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail. Something in my chest told me not to. Hello. Silence. Then a voice I hadn't heard in nearly a decade. Rachel, it's me. It's Vanessa. I stepped out onto the balcony, shut the door behind me. Where have you been? I asked, barely able to get the words out. I'm in Seattle, she said softly. I was hoping we could talk. She sounded different, steady, older, like someone who had lived hard years and come out on the other side. We met at a coffee shop the next day. I left Lily at school and told her I had an appointment. Vanessa walked in like a stranger. Her curls were gone now, a sleek bob. She wore a blazer. She looked put together. I've been sober for 7 years, she said. After we sat down, I finished rehab, got my degree. I'm married now. My husband's name is Daniel. She said it like a practice speech, like she'd been preparing for this moment. I didn't know whether to scream or cry. She told me everything. After she left Lily, she spiraled addiction, homelessness, rehab. Then slowly, she climbed back. She found structure, got clean, stayed clean, met Daniel during her recovery. They married, moved back here. And then she looked at me. I want to meet her. I stared at my coffee. She doesn't know you. I know, but maybe she could, maybe just a visit. I didn't answer right away. I didn't trust Vanessa, but I couldn't ignore her either. So I did what I always did. I sought advice. Lily's school counselor connected me to a child therapist. We talked through the risks, the steps, the need for boundaries. Nothing rushed, no surprises, no overnight reunions. When I finally told Lily, I kept it simple. Remember how I told you your mom was really sick before? Well, she's better now. And she asked if she could meet you. She stared at me, silent, then asked, "Will you come too?" "Always," I said. We met at the Children's Museum, neutral ground, full of distractions. Lily held my hand the whole time. Vanessa approached slowly, smiled. "Hi, Lily," she said. "I've wanted to meet you for a long time." Lily didn't let go of me. She looked Vanessa straight in the eye and said, "Nana is my mom." Vanessa blinked, then smiled, softly. "That's okay. You're very lucky to have her." It should have ended there, but it didn't. Over the next few months, Vanessa became a cautious presence in our lives. We kept the visits short, always in public spaces, a park, a bookstore, the zoo. She was careful, never pushed, never overstepped. She brought small gifts, always thoughtful, art supplies, dinosaur books, a sweater that actually fit. Lily warmed up to her slowly. She still clung to me during drop-offs and always asked to go home early, but she stopped calling Vanessa the lady. She started saying my birth mom. And I started to believe that maybe this could work. That was my mistake. Vanessa called one afternoon and asked if she and her husband could come over for dinner. "Daniel wants to meet Lily," she said. I hesitated. I had only seen Daniel once, from a distance, tall, polished, a little too polished. But Lily was curious. "Is that her husband, like her new family?" she asked. So I said yes. They arrived with a bottle of wine and a board game. Daniel was charming, polite, overly interested. He asked Lily about school, her favorite subjects, whether she liked art or science more. He smiled at everything she said. Too much. He complimented my cooking, the way I decorated the apartment, even my remarkable resilience. It felt rehearsed. But I kept smiling. I served dessert. I cleaned plates. And then, over cherry cobbler, Vanessa dropped it. "We've been thinking," she said, glancing at Daniel. "Now that we're settled and Lily knows who we are, maybe it's time to talk about a more permanent role in her life." I didn't say anything. Daniel leaned forward. "We believe Lily would thrive with both parents in a more traditional environment. A home, a yard, a private school, a full-time mother. I stared at him. She has a full-time mother. You've done an amazing job. Rachel, Vanessa said quickly. We're not denying that. But biologically, Daniel started. I cut him off. I've been raising her for 9 years. Through every fever, every nightmare, every spelling test. She's not just a project you can resume after a long vacation. Daniel's tone shifted. A little colder now. Legally, there's precedent. I pushed my chair back. Lily was in the other room, showing Vanessa's birthday gift to Mrs. Ramirez, who'd stopped by earlier. She stays with me, I said. That's not up for negotiation. We're not trying to take her away, Vanessa insisted. We just want to explore our options. That phrase, explore our options, it sent ice down my spine. They left shortly after. Polite goodbyes, forced smiles. I shut the door behind them and locked it twice. The next day, I called the therapist who had advised us early on. She said calmly, "You may want to speak to a lawyer." I tried to hold it together, for Lily, for myself, but the tension was leaking into everything. That weekend, I got an invitation from my parents. Sunday dinner, all of us. It was strange. They never hosted, never included Lily unless guilt-tripped. But we went. Vanessa and Daniel were already there, sitting comfortably in the living room. My parents beamed like it was Thanksgiving. Vanessa's doing so well, my mom said. She's worked so hard. She's taken responsibility, my dad added. She's ready to be Lily's mother again. I felt the room spin. You've been in contact with her, I asked. For a few years now, my mother said casually. She needed space. We respected that. 3 years, my father confirmed. She reached out after rehab. Lily was helping set the table in the other room. I lowered my voice. You've known where she was this whole time, and you never told me. She asked us not to, my mom said, as if that explained everything. And now you think she should take Lily. She deserves a second chance, my father said. You all do. I walked out without finishing dinner. Lily didn't ask questions, but that night, she crawled into my bed and whispered, Grandma said I might live with Aunt Vanessa. Is that true? I sat up, turned toward her. No, sweetheart. You live with me. You always have. And you always will. But she said Vanessa is my real mom. I'm your real mom, I said, because I chose you every single day. She looked at me for a long time, then said, Cross your heart. I placed my hand over my chest. Cross my heart. That night, she had her first nightmare in years, screaming in her sleep, Don't take me. I held her until morning. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I planned. The next week, I got a letter, formal, cold, from a lawyer. Vanessa was petitioning for custody, restoration of parental rights, review of guardianship. The hearing was set for 30 days later. I hired an attorney the next morning, Julia Navarro, recommended by a teacher I trusted. Her office was warm, shelves of toys in the corner. She had kind eyes, but her tone was firm. I won't lie to you, she said. Biological parents have strong rights, even ones who've been absent. But 10 years, that's your strongest card. I gave her everything. Photos, school records, doctor visits, letters from Lily's teachers, a timeline of every milestone, a list of every night Lily had fallen asleep in my arms, not Vanessa's. I called the private investigator I'd hired years ago. This time, I wanted everything. Background checks, finances, motives. He didn't disappoint. What he found would change everything. But I wasn't ready to use it yet. I wanted to fight fair. Until they didn't, I had 30 days to prepare for the custody hearing. 30 days to prove I was more than just the aunt who stepped in. I had to prove I was the only mother Lily had ever truly known. Julia and I built our case piece by piece. We gathered school records, attendance logs, report cards, photos from every birthday, letters from Lily's teachers, her pediatrician, even Mrs. Ramirez. Each one painted the same picture: a child raised with stability, love, and consistency. We pulled financial statements, my work schedule, childcare receipts, proof I had built a life around Lily's needs, not mine. Vanessa's lawyer, on the other hand, played a different game. He filed requests for everything: my income, my medical records, even my dating history. He was trying to paint me as overwhelmed, overworked, incapable of giving Lily the kind of future Vanessa and Daniel could provide. A home with a backyard, private school, a complete family. The words stung, but I didn't flinch. Meanwhile, Lily changed. She stopped humming in the mornings. She asked if she'd have to change schools. One night, she hid her favorite book under her bed and whispered, "So they don't take it." The therapist said she was developing anxiety around separation, that she'd started having dreams about packing bags and being taken away. I couldn't tell her it would never happen, but I did everything in my power to make her feel safe. And then, 2 weeks before the hearing, the private investigator called. "I found something," he said. "You'll want to sit down." We met at a diner off Fifth Avenue. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were printed screenshots, financial records, and a series of search histories. Daniel had been searching for Lily's biological father. It had started months before they reconnected with me. Social media deep dives, paternity sites, public databases. Then he found him. Marcus Bell, a former college student Amanda had dated briefly quiet, private, now living out of state. 6 months ago, Marcus inherited millions from his grandfather. The timeline was chilling. Vanessa and Daniel's sudden return, the lawyer, the custody petition, all of it aligned perfectly with Marcus's inheritance. If they gain custody, the investigator said, they can claim child support retroactively, possibly even tap into a trust, depending on how it's structured. It wasn't about Lily. It never had been. It was about money, access, control. My stomach dropped. "What else?" I asked. He pointed to another page. "Daniel's company is barely staying afloat. The 6-figure salary he claimed fabricated. He's leveraged. Their mortgage is maxed out." Then he flipped to the last sheet. "Your parents, Gregory and Marlene, they've been in contact with Vanessa for over 3 years. Weekly emails, video calls. They even helped fund her lawyer. And yet they'd submitted affidavits claiming they had no idea where she was. Perjury. Coordinated. Calculated." I sat there, staring at the evidence. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just said, "Let's bring it all." 2 days before the hearing, Julia prepped me in her office. "This changes everything," she said. "But we don't lead with it. We wait. We let them talk first. Let the court see what they're selling." She slid the sealed folder into a large envelope. "When the time is right, we use this." I nodded. The morning of the hearing, I dressed in the navy blue suit I bought just for this day. Not flashy, not stiff, just solid. Lily stayed with her art teacher, Ms. Jacobs. She didn't ask too many questions, but she hugged me for longer than usual. "Will I still live with you?" she asked. I knelt down. "Yes, I promise. Cross my heart." The courthouse was cold. High ceilings, gray walls, that fluorescent silence that makes everything feel clinical. Vanessa wore a floral dress. Daniel sat beside her, confident. My parents were right behind them, my mother clutching her purse like it was armor. The judge entered, a woman in her 60s, sharp eyes, silver hair, Judge Hale. She opened with a reminder. "This court's sole interest is the well-being of the child. We will not entertain drama, speculation, or financial argument unless relevant to that purpose." Vanessa testified first. She spoke of rehab, recovery, regret. She cried in the right places, spoke gently, claimed she had watched every birthday from afar, waiting for the right time. Daniel followed. He detailed their home, the school district, their income, their ability to provide. He framed me as tired, overstretched, lacking male influence in Lily's life. My parents took the stand next. They told the court they'd always supported me, but that I'd become territorial, that I refused family access, that I'd blurred boundaries between aunt and mother. Each word felt like a paper cut, not a knife, just small, deliberate stings. Then it was my turn. I didn't perform. I told the truth. About the night Lily arrived, about every choice that followed, about how I built a life around her, not instead of her. She calls me Nana, I said, not because I told her to, but because that's who I've been since she was 3 months old. I didn't ask for this, but I chose it, every day since. Then Julia stood, calm, clear. Your Honor, she said, we'd like to submit one final piece of evidence. She handed the sealed folder to the clerk. Judge Hale flipped it open. Her eyes narrowed as she read. Approach the bench, she said. What followed was 20 minutes of whispers, nods, and tension so thick I could barely breathe. Then Judge Hale looked up. Miss Whitaker, she said, did you know about these financial motivations? I nodded once. And you have reason to believe these statements from Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker are knowingly false. Yes, Your Honor, I do. She turned to Vanessa, then Daniel, then my parents, and said something I'll never forget. I suggest you retain counsel, for yourselves. The courtroom turned quiet. Not the respectful silence from earlier, but the kind that crackles. Tight. Pressurized. Like everyone had stopped breathing at once. Judge Hale closed the folder slowly. Her glasses rested at the tip of her nose as she looked over them, first at Vanessa, then at Daniel, then at my parents. Miss Morgan, she said to Vanessa, are you aware that your husband initiated a search for Lily's biological father just weeks before filing this petition? Vanessa blinked. Her eyes darted toward Daniel. No, Your Honor. I mean, he mentioned looking into... That man recently inherited several $1 million. Judge Hale cut in. And your husband's business, as it turns out, is not in the stable financial shape described in your filings. Daniel shifted in his seat. His jaw clenched, but he stayed silent. Judge Hale continued, her voice sharper now. There are messages and browser records that indicate your husband was pursuing paternity connections for the purpose of potential financial claims. Were you aware of that? I didn't know about the money, Vanessa said. Her voice was tight. He told me it would strengthen our case. So the answer is yes. The judge replied, you knew he was digging into Lily's paternity, and you allowed him to weaponize that against the child's guardian. Vanessa looked down at her hands. Judge Hale turned to my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker, did you or did you not submit sworn statements claiming you had no knowledge of your daughter's whereabouts for the past 10 years? My father cleared his throat. We were protecting her privacy during recovery. That's not what I asked. My mother jumped in. We may have misremembered some details. I see, the judge said, her tone razor sharp. Well, the court doesn't take kindly to perjury, intentional or otherwise, especially in matters involving a child. She paused, flipping through the final few pages of evidence. Then she looked at me. Miss Whitaker, you've demonstrated through testimony and evidence that you have been Lily's primary caregiver since infancy. You've maintained stable housing, consistent education, medical care, and emotional security. I nodded, barely breathing. She continued, her voice softening for the first time all day. The child's teachers, pediatrician, and therapist all confirm a strong, healthy maternal bond between you and Lily. Disrupting that bond would cause significant emotional harm, especially given the instability that initiated the situation. She sat back. It is the judgment of this court that Lily Grace Whitaker will remain in the custody of her legal guardian, Rachel Whitaker. The words didn't land right away. They floated, distant, abstract. Then I exhaled. For the first time in weeks, maybe years, I truly exhaled. Judge Hale wasn't done. "Miss Morgan," she said, turning back to Vanessa, "this court acknowledges your recovery and progress. Supervised visitation may be pursued through family services, with the option to expand based on the child's comfort and best interest. However, this court will not tolerate further attempts to manipulate the system for financial gain." Vanessa nodded silently. "Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker," the judge continued, "you are hereby admonished, should you wish to remain in your granddaughter's life, future contact will be at the sole discretion of her legal guardian." My mother gasped softly. My father's expression didn't change. Court adjourned. I gathered my things slowly. Julia squeezed my arm once. No words, just that brief, grounding pressure that said, "We did it." Vanessa approached me as I stepped into the hallway. "I didn't know about the money," she said quietly. "At least, not at first." I looked her in the eye. "But you knew enough, and you let it happen." She opened her mouth, closed it, then nodded. "I'm sorry. I hope you mean that." She walked away without another word. Daniel didn't even look at me. He stormed past, jaw clenched, shoulders tense, suit wrinkled like he'd been wearing it for days. My parents lingered. "We just wanted what was best for Lily," my mother said, her voice shaking. "No, you wanted control, and you picked your side. She's still our granddaughter, and you were willing to lie under oath to take her from me." They didn't respond. I turned and walked out of the courthouse. Into the light. Into peace. Lily was waiting at Ms. Jacobs's house, coloring a poster about the planets. She ran to me the second she saw my face. "What did the judge say?" I knelt, wrapped my arms around her. "She said we stay together." Her whole body relaxed against mine. She whispered, "You kept your promise." "Always," I said, "always." That night, we ate pizza on the floor and built a pillow fort. Lily told me about her science project and how she wanted to be an astronaut and a teacher and maybe a baker. I let her talk, let her dream, and I sat back, finally able to breathe, knowing the worst was behind us. But not everything was healed. Over the next few weeks, Lily continued therapy. Her drawings showed clearer skies, brighter colors, but she still asked questions sometimes. Why did they try to take me? Because they didn't understand what love really looks like. I told her once, "But you do. You've lived it." Vanessa requested supervised visits through family services. I agreed, for Lily's sake. Not as her mother, but maybe one day, as someone Lily could understand, maybe even forgive. Daniel never showed up again. And my parents, they faded. I didn't block them, but I no longer made space for people who had proven they'd put themselves first every time. Instead, I surrounded Lily with the people who had shown up: Mrs. Ramirez, Julia, her teachers, the neighbors who dropped off groceries when I was sick, the daycare provider who stayed late without charging extra. We had a small life, but it was real, and it was ours. Looking back, I realized the fight for Lily was never just about custody. It was about what it means to be a family in a world that measures love in paperwork, DNA, and bank accounts. I learned that sometimes. The people who protect you aren't the ones who share your blood, but the ones who show up when you need them most and never leave. Lily and I settled back into our small routines. Life was quieter. She drew pictures of rocket ships and birthday cakes. We went to the library on Saturdays, built new photo albums, and added pages for people who truly mattered. Not everyone stayed, but the ones who did made our world feel whole. Sometimes Lily would ask about Vanessa, or about my parents. I always told her the truth, even when it hurt. She deserved that. I wanted her to know that forgiveness is possible, but trust must be earned. Over time, she grew braver, softer too. She became the kind of child who comforted her friends when they were sad, who stood up for herself even when it was hard. I found new confidence, too. I stopped apologizing for being just an aunt, or just a nurse, or just enough. I became proud of every scar and late night and hard decision that brought us here. I knew I had done right by Lily. I would do it all again. Sometimes, I think about Amanda, about the night she left her daughter with me. I don't know if she understood what she was giving up, or if she just couldn't go on. Maybe both. I hope she finds her own kind of peace. As for my parents, time created distance. I never closed the door, but I stopped waiting for them to walk through it. Instead, I built a new family out of kindness, honesty, and choice. I hope Lily carries those lessons further than I ever could. I hope she grows up knowing her story isn't defined by who left, but by who stayed and by the love she received, even in the hardest moments. If you're listening to this, and you've ever had to fight for your family, or for your own worth, know that you are not alone. Family is more than genetics. It's the people who fight for you in the dark and celebrate you in the light. If this story meant something to you, like, comment, or share your own experience below. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And somewhere out there, someone needs to hear it. Thank you for staying with me to the end. This was our story, but maybe, in a way, it's yours too.